Please welcome Rachel Giza and Azar Nefisi.
That's one thing about books, that the connections they make, not only with new people, with new readers, which is sort of like with new worlds, but they somehow take you back to the past as well. You know, we not need a democratic imagination in a democracy? Mm-hmm. Is that true? And since that question came up from among other people who would tell me, you read Great Gatsby, you read these books because you were living under a dictatorship, do we need to read them? Or some of my students would say that. And I went in this book to investigate.
Mm-hmm. Because the premise of the book is that you talk about a number of, you focus on American literature. Yeah. And you talk about the importance of American literature in understanding America. And the book is in many ways, to me, I read it as a look at the tensions and the contradictions in American identity and the promise of America versus the reality of America. The three books that you selected were The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, Sinclair Lewis's Babbitt, and Carson McCullers' The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. So what is it about those three books, and for people who might not be familiar with them, how were those three emblematic for you, or what did they say about American literature or about American ideals?
So the point about Huck was, I felt that in creating a new language for America, because before even the greatest writers like Melville, my God, you know, Hawthorne, Poe, the language was not yet American. And Mark Twain created a new morality for America as well. And at the heart of morality was the issue of race.
Then moving on to Babbitt, which I don't know if a lot of people here would be familiar with Babbitt, but really the taking up the idea of the kind of 1950s mid-century conformity and materialism. So could you talk a bit about that as a theme in the American?
And that is why exactly what you said is the reason I chose Babbitt as the next book, because Babbitt is anti-Huck. And all great fiction, but especially in America, you have this tradition of conformity, which is the great, and the radical character in Babbitt talks about how what I'm scared of is standardization of thought. And he says that these people like Babbitt are very dangerous because they also look like good people. If Babbitt was all evil, if what Babbitt was offering us was all evil, it would have been much easier to deal with us. It is the concept of evil that novel deals with so beautifully, because evil always comes to us as a friend, you know. It's like Humbert, that is what Nabokov does to you. That evil comes to you as a sophisticated poet, you know. Evil comes to you as a spiritual ayatollah. Evil, you know, and we trust. And we want something from it. It's very Faustian. And so Babbitt is that character. And when you read Babbitt, I mean, the amazing thing about it is that the colloquialism, the language, the Rotarian language Babbitt uses is exactly like the way American, like Donald Trump would be talking. I mean, the jingoism, the way he talks about, the way they change the meaning of words. Like, you know, nowadays in America, we don't call CEOs who are robbing us of money CEOs who are robbing us of money. We call them job creators. You know, we call the little guy who is living on his social security moochers.
You know, you start out, another theme running through the book is the sense of inequality and the gap between those who have and those who don't have, and that being a sort of a central tension in American culture, and also the thing that drives American innovation and the thing that leads to inequality.
That is exactly it, and that is why it is so important to read. This is so important that this, and in Babbitt, I criticize the American system of education. It is really not the issue of this Common Core that now Obama has brought, or No Child Left Behind that George W. Bush brought. These reforms won't do anything because it is the gap between the public schools that are poverty-ridden and the private schools, and the fact that now the charter schools get money from the government, but all the it has become a business. Everything is justified as business, and that is another strain in America, the Ayn Randian strain, where individualism becomes each for his own. Like Donald Trump saying that the missionaries who had Ebola should have been left there and died. He said because they went there to aid people, but they should face the consequences.
And it seems, because I don't want to give the impression for people who haven't had a chance to read the book, which is really wonderful, that this is a book that's solely critical of America, because there's so much a celebration too in these very things. You say in the book early on, America, to my mind, cannot be separated from its fiction.
No, that is why. What I was trying to say was that my hope is not in this jingoism of people who are now talking on Fox News. I mean, and I don't want to talk about Fox News. It's also obvious that one should not really, really, because it is a very easy target. At first, I had a big thing on Sarah Palin comparing her journey on the river in Alaska to Huck's journey, saying that we have now become parodies of our myths, But I thought, why do I care about it? I do care, but not to give her space in my book. But anyway, the point about it is that empty of feeling about what America is. But when you go to American fiction, when you listen to American music, when you see the painting, when you come to Washington, D.C., instead of looking to Congress and White House, if you look at the mall and the Smithsonian, and I think that's the jewel in America's heart. I took my children first to the Smithsonian when we came here, and I took them to Freer Sackler, and I told them, look at all this. Here's India. This is Persia. This is China, and this is America. So we bring them all to us, and we celebrate them. That was the America for me. Yeah, that is why, you always feel that books are so prophetic, because they sort of predict what will happen if we go a certain way. And you have science fiction, we were talking about it. So much of the books are about isolation, UNESCO and Beckett and all the others. And I think that is why actually communities become so important. And that is why reading has now become in itself a community, because we're destroying every single community that we have. And we have virtual communities, but we're also creatures of flesh and blood. De Tocqueville talked about one danger in America was that individuals will reach a certain amount of prosperity where individuals would withdraw from themselves and they will forget civic public spaces. And I think that if we enter the public civic space and we have a goal and meaning in our lives, which is not just us, it would be maybe the answer. First of all, I don't know about young people. A lot of times I notice that people my age make comments about young people as if they're already defined, and they're not, and I talk a lot to my own children. The fact that they do say that sometimes they pay more attention to what they're texting than to the friend in front of them, which has become a cliche.
I know.
And I know I had not used social media. With this book, I have started a new life, meaning I'm going to use them now. And I've been on Twitter for a few months now. And I know the seduction there. I want to answer all these people, and I don't know them, and they don't know anything about me, and I don't want to tell them how many children I have, or today I ate this fantastic thing here that I don't know what it was.
Cookie. But I think that's another sort of, to me it speaks to the sort of the contradiction you highlight in the book too, that the things that are bringing people together globally, the things that are helping social justice revolutions, people being able to spread the message, people being able to say we're all a journalist, if you have a phone you can get a message out. it can actually be the thing that brings people together is also the thing that isolates them, right?
We have a reading list. Wonderful. Exactly what we love to have.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Wonderful to
this.
have
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, this is great. That was so lovely.